I'm going to turn 60 next month, guys. And so I am on a roll and a mission in the next 5 years. I want the National Association of Realtors to change the world. That's my goal. I want us to be the organization that gets in there and really reduces the carbon footprint. And we have the ability to do that because we're in the building industry. You know, we influence people more than we know, because we influence them on their choice of their house. We influence them on how they build. We influence the market on what we think is valuable. So we can make a huge difference. And if you are thinking about starting a sustainability committee, it does not matter if it is in your Realtors Association, if it's a nonprofit that you're in part of, maybe it could even be if it's for a church or a spiritual center, or if it's your own company, or if it's your own team. Whatever your sustainability committee that you're creating, your goal at this point, it can be your mission, it can be your purpose, you could be your goal. I don't care what you call it, but your driving factor at this point in our stage of where we are in our world, the driving factor needs to be reduce carbon footprint. So if that's your driving factor, then you can create whatever you want to meet that need along the way. All right. Why are we not going to the next slide? Hang on. Okay. This is Mama Mary wisdom. Okay. Every group has one of these type of personalities. And, you know, this is where I say it's Mama Mary wisdom, because you can have this, you know, if you're doing different types of programs, they call them different things, but this is what's in your group. You've got somebody that's doing it now. All right. They're motivated, whatever it is that you're doing, they're doing it now. And then you've got somebody else in your group who wants to learn. You've always got somebody with a personal agenda in your group. And then you've got at least one person that likes to hear themselves talk. Okay. Each one of these styles and these people are valuable to your sustainability group. If you learn how to utilize these different traits, personalities to make your group work, it's going to be functional and healthy, and you'll be able to do something. If you don't know how to utilize these different people, or you don't recognize what's going on, then your group can be, your committee can be dysfunctional. You know, if you've got somebody that's got a personal agenda and you let them take over, then it's not going to be broad enough for most people, and they're just going to quit. All right. If you've got somebody that likes to hear themselves talk, and you let them take over, then no one's going to come to the next meeting. It's just, yeah. And for someone who's doing it now, if you're not going to be doing some implementation, they're going to get bored and won't come back. All right. And then the majority of the people, though, that are going to show up in groups and committees about sustainability usually are people who want to learn. They might know a little bit, but they're really there to learn more, and then they want to do something with what they've learned. So that's important to know when you're actually creating your sustainability committee. Your committee, this is one of the things that if you'll do this, this will save you all a lot of time and get you into action a lot faster. You need to know that every sustainability committee that I have ever been a part of has two functions. There's education and implementation. What usually happens in most of the committees that I've been involved in is they have the education, but the next step of the implementation is never done, or it's done one time and then not followed up. So I know right now that there's some associations, realtors associations out there that have sustainability committees that they're focusing on education because they've got to build, the desire, the knowledge, the value. However, they don't even have a plan for implementation. So if you're starting this up or you're with a group, you need to figure out what it is you want to achieve with your committee. Now, I think the education part is sort of easy, except for the fact that you could be overloaded with education. So it's important to keep it simple for your colleagues or whoever it is that your stakeholders that you're working with. Again, your goal, if you have your goal, your mission, your purpose, whatever you really want to call it, but the thing that you're really doing, if it is about reducing carbon footprint, then that drives you in a different way than if it's to educate the public and create a friendly environment for green homes. That's part of reducing carbon footprint, but it is amazing of what more opportunities are opened when your committee is focused on reducing the carbon footprint. All right. So the objectives for a sustainability committee usually are to educate your stakeholders, whether that's your fellow realtors, contractors, appraisers, maybe it's your HOA. It doesn't really matter. One of the objectives is always going to be education. For us as realtors, we want to also educate our consumers, and then the action work, the implementation has to come along at the same time now. You really can't wait for 3 years of education and then do implementation. In 2004, now we were a small realtors association in Asheville at the time. We're much larger now because we've expanded, but at the time it was called Asheville Realtors Association. And we did an education and implementation plan together at the same time. And in 2004, we actually had a green MLS. So you have to, this is, if you're just doing this for your own, say you have a team, you're that small, it's just your team. That team needs to be pushing about greening the MLS. If you don't already have your MLS green, that is a huge action work that needs to be done. Another part of the implementation that involves education is training realtors and appraisers and how to use those MLS fields and how to increase the value and market those high performance green homes. This is what your objectives need to be in a nutshell to be successful. Now, who should be on your committee? It sort of depends, right? Your committee, if you're in a, say you're, well, XP Realty has a sustainability committee. I think they have like, I don't know, they have 8,000 people that show up on their videos of that, they said. I know that Atlanta Realtors Association has a sustainability committee, but I also know that some of the companies that still do brick and mortar have committees as well. So whoever you have in your niche there that you're working with, you need to make sure that you've got champions and power people that's on your committee. All right, so that maybe that if you're doing the Realtor Association, you need to have the president of the association, the educational person that's in charge of the association, the CEO, somebody that can actually, when you say, hey, we've come up with this, somebody who will actually say, yes, we can do that. Or, yeah, I know how we can make that happen. You need to have those power people involved. Now, they may not want to show up to every meeting, and that's fine, but they still need to have a buy-in because those are the ones who ultimately are going to be in charge of making some really important changes that need to happen. Other people that you need to include are appraisers. This is where I think as realtors in the past committees that they've created has struggled with is to get appraisers to buy in and be part of a committee. One of the things is, for what I have seen, is they were not invited initially. So if you're starting a new one, I highly recommend that you get at least one appraiser into the committee. You definitely need some builders, some subcontractors. If you can get your Home Builders Association leaders involved, that is huge. And if there's a nonprofit that deals anything with housing, it might be they deal with affordable housing, it might be Habitat, anything with housing, then that's important. The most successful sustainable committee that I've ever worked on had the Realtors Association, the Home Builders Association, a nonprofit that dealt with certification, and another nonprofit that dealt with affordable housing, all on it. And that made a huge difference with what they were actually to implement within a year. Now, you need somebody to be an eager chair. You remember those different personalities we talked about at first? So if you've got that person that's already doing it they might want to be an eager chair. Or somebody that really wants to learn might want to be your eager chair. But you need to have a chairperson that is gung-ho about getting something done. Now, your social director should be that person that likes to talk a lot, because they enjoy sharing information. And that with your committees, if it's always just sort of boring and you don't meet in a social aspect, then people drop off. So combine some social activities with your brainstorming meetings. Your educational director is definitely somebody who wants to learn, or somebody that knows some of the information already and can find it pretty easy. These are just the different people that you're looking for. Even if you are just doing it, say it is your team and you want your team to be more sustainable, to bring on an appraiser and a builder into your team when you're talking about this and a nonprofit that supports affordable housing is huge. That is fantastic networking, fantastic social interaction to make and bring forth change. All right, if you set it up like this, say, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go home. I'm going to call these people, and I've got them. They've agreed. So what are you going to do? Well, let's talk about your timeline. All right. It's a realistic timeline. In February, you hold your first meeting. You assign the chair. You define what you want for education and implementation. Then in your next meeting in March, you determine what is that current market like. If it's like Asheville, it's not hard. I've helped build the Asheville green homes market over the past 20 years. So it's live and thriving here. But maybe it's not. In Anniston, Alabama, there's not anybody that's interested except for 2 people. They've got to build that. So you've got to determine where your market is. Then Earth Day's coming up in April, so make it fun. That's your social event. That's where you have a good time. That's where you start educating people in a fun way. Then in May, you've got a focus group. You're starting to really look at the MLS. If you've already got green MLS in your area, you're starting to train appraisers and realtors how to really use it and why it's important to use it. You've got sub branches of your educational group and your social group that are active and thriving. And then in June, by June, everybody is going to be involved. They're here. They're either, if people are going to drop off, they've already dropped off. In June, they're ready. You're solid. Hopefully you've got 12 people. If you have 12, is like the magic number for committees. If you got 12 people, then you can look at education, implementation, and if you've got a passion that you have that's sort of off the side, maybe it's a recycling project in your office that you want to do. Those 3 groups actually create SMART goals for them. Have goals that are realistic, measurable, and have a time. If you do that by mid-year of 2023, your sustainability committee is already doing so much more than some of the committees that exist today. I want you to be the change agent. I know that's why you came on to listen today, is because you care. So I want you to be the change agent, and I want you to create a sustainability committee that actually has results. Push that. You'll be amazed at if the main purpose is really to reduce carbon footprint, it eliminates a lot of, yeah, but should we, or I don't know, that type of stuff. Because that's the question you ask each time. Well, does this reduce carbon footprint ultimately? If yes, then okay. If no, then let's not deal with it. It's not ours to do. Be sure to include leaders. Wherever your leader is in whatever area. And if you're one of the leaders, absolutely, that's great, but pull in other people. Utilize those different personalities for the best functions. Make sure your MLS has at least some type of green feature. The more, the better. I teach a whole class to our Land of Sky realtors about utilizing our MLS. And it is amazing because we've had this fantastic MLS with all kinds of green features, and there's so many people that still don't know how to use it. with your education, keep it as simple as you possibly can, because in today's age, we have too much overload, information overload. So keep it simple. There are definitely some common features that are the most important. Dealing with energy efficiency and indoor air quality are two of the top things that realtors need to know, because that's what consumers ask about all the time.